Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the PivotBoss pre-market video for Wednesday, May 10th, 2023. I am Frank Ochoa, aka PivotBoss. Happy hump day, everyone. Here's a look at the daily time frame of the ES. We have ourselves inflation data released here prior to the RTH open. That led to a significant spike in price here. Failed new low developing right now. Failed new low, outside day up on a 2-day range and approaching a stop run day target. This could be a super high range day overall, and a 2-day high range period here where the ES could see north of 100 to 115 points of range on a 2-day basis, which means if 4120 is the low here, we could see a move that takes us higher toward about 4190 today, and then likely toward about 4200 to 4215 over the course of the next couple of days. So if this strong low remains intact, we could be looking at more upside toward 4190 today for a 70-point day, or perhaps even beyond. Now, one thing to keep an eye on is, do we see a strong rejection after this initial move this morning? If prices are unable to hold above the previous session's high or above 2-day highs on the balance here on the whole, then we could be looking at perhaps a failure back into the range as this thing continues to expand here. So right now you definitely want, out of this strength, for price to continue to hold, build acceptance, and continue higher in a trend day type of discovery phase type of move. Price needs to stay above the previous session's high and push beyond that. If not, again, we could be looking at further chop around the center point of this range. But as we mentioned before, the failure at the previous low suggests a flow to the upside, so we were giving this thing an upside bias and watching for failed new lows for a continuation up. Let's take a look here at the NQ. The NQ with a big time reversal from the lows as well. As we've noted before, uptrending market overall. Watching 2-day lows here for a rejection. We saw it here. 13.2 is the low here, and from 13.2 we've already returned higher quite a bit. On this scale here, we're looking for a 400-point move over a 2-day range basis, at least a 400-point move. So from this 13.2 plus 400, that gets you to 13.6. 13.6 could be the next upside target up ahead on a 2-day range basis. So, you know, if you're looking at 13.2 plus 4, that's a 2-day range move that could take you up to that target. Now, on a 1-day range basis, you may see something closer to 200 points per day, 215 points or more. So 200 points is almost where we're at right now. Right, that's a 13.2 to 13.4, so you likely try to extend these gains beyond these highs. One thing that we talked about in the previous session was, if we're going to break out from this range here, this ascending wedge, you definitely want to be able to break and hold, because if it breaks out and then it fails back below the breakdown point, that's going to be a massive failed new high that could lead price right back to 12.8 very, very quickly. So that's going to be something to watch here ahead for the NQ. All right, let's take a look here at crude oil. As crude oil pops up here, this one has been perhaps the most bullish right now. A very strong rejection on the low here. That happened last Wednesday, and we've seen this thing continue higher ever since. One of the things we mentioned before was the rejection at the edge was likely going to return price back toward the center of the range as a high probability opportunity here. 76 would be that target. We continue to see this thing march higher toward that target. Not only 76, but you likely get a continuation toward the 80.5 previous year's close. That level's been a sticky level all year long here, and we likely get a test at that level with a falling 200 coming to meet it as resistance. So overall, more upside ahead. Right now, narrow range, compression day, especially over the last couple of 2 or 3 days, but an upside bias. A failed new low could be a tremendous opportunity for this thing to continue higher up ahead. Any pullback, even as low as 70 here, could be a great opportunity to pick this thing up and return it to 76 and higher. Taking a look at gold futures now. Gold futures up 0.4%. This thing continues to remain within 2060 and 1980 as the range. You can widen it up maybe a little bit more, 1960 to 2080, but this has been the bulk of the range here over the past many weeks. Again, we're in a point here where we haven't seen much acceptance beyond 2060, and we're coming back to retest it at the moment. So 2060 is kind of that level here that if it can't get beyond it, or we start to see rejection, as we're starting to see a little bit of rejection intraday right now, we may see this thing return back toward the center of the range, 2010, maybe back to 1980 below. But again, this thing still remains range bound, and until it fails to hold 1960, we continue to be mostly bullish up here at these highs with an upward bias. As soon as we give up 1960, that opens the door to the 1800s below. Taking a look lastly here at the YM. The YM with a big move here early on, not a failed new low, barely missed the previous session's lows, holding the previous quarter's close price and bouncing here above the previous highs. We're still really in a 3-day narrow range right now, so the YM is the least impressive in terms of strength here after CPI so far. Now this one again has a good 3-day narrow range. If we start to get beyond the 33,850s, that could open up some upside. But if we start to fail up here again, do we put in a strong high this morning? Do we fade back into the range? So we got to see, is this an initial breakout phase that triggers more of a continuation ahead, or do we start to top out and fade back into range? So right now, 3-day narrow range developing here. If we can get through the 33,850s, that starts to really open up the upside for a continuation back toward recent highs as this market continues to develop that expanding range. All right. One thing to keep in mind here is I did post the webinar recording from yesterday afternoon, the lunchtime webinar, Making Money with Trade Sequences. Thank you very much for those of you who joined me live for the event, and also for those that have already watched the recording. You can find the recording in the description below, along with the flash deal for Swing Trade Pro 2.0. So please find that below. As always, good luck, trade well, and I'll see you in the trading room. Take care.